afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. There is all kinds of evidence that interest in food production in Vermont is soaring. The growth of food-related programs and courses at the college, high school, and even elementary school levels is one example. And a statewide network of farm-to-plate initiatives is another. Throw in an increase in small local farms and the expansion of farmers markets, and it's clear that our state is at the forefront of local food production. Today we're going to learn about a program at the University of Vermont that'll bring hands-on farming education to students who are hungry for practical knowledge of food production. To find out more, I'm joined by Terry Bradshaw. Terry is the director of the UVM Horticultural Research and Education Center. Also with me is Susie Walsh-Delos. Susie is the director of UVM's Continuing and Distance Education Farmer Training Program. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Susie, why is UVM increasing summer courses on farming?
So, as you know, we've had a successful farmer training program for the last 3 years. This is a 6-month-long program that's very experiential and hands-on, trains our non-traditional students in all these production pieces. And we found that there's increased interest from undergrad students, other folks in the community who want a shorter course, and even high school students.
Mm-hmm. And so, Terry, what exactly are you doing? What does UVM put together?
Well, to facilitate the teaching, the increased teaching offerings, the UVM Horticulture Farm, as well as Continuing and Distance Education, are launching a new program this year that we're calling Catamount Educational Farm. This will be based at the Hort Farm, and it's a program that's going to consolidate fruit and vegetable production under a common management system. Mm-hmm. And this will support educational and research opportunities at the farm and streamline the management and the year-to-year oversight of the farm fields. The farm will be growing produce, and one of the neat things about it is we're going to be contributing to the local UVM food system by marketing the student-grown produce back to the UVM community through a campus farm stand, through CSA shares, and through wholesale account with UVM Food Services. So we'll be getting food on campus, which is a great side benefit of this.
How many people do you think are you expecting? How many students?
Oh gosh, we'll have between the farmer training program and the undergraduates upwards of, with all the classes, potentially 50 students.
Wow. And so Susie, can you tell us about the Sustainable Farm Practicum?
Sure. So this is an awesome course for students who want to really learn by doing. So it's a 12-week course, and Terry and I are going to co-teach it, and the topics we're going to cover all production, anywhere from seed management to soil fertility management, pest, disease, and we're going to do it with the students. The practicum pieces that these students are going to be involved in the management of the farm alongside those farmer training students. So we're going to touch on all the production pieces of a sustainable farm as well as management and marketing and business.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about experiential. I mean, these are going to be hands-on courses.
Yeah, that's what's so awesome. So these guys are going to learn it. We'll talk, we'll have a classroom component, and then we'll go out right then and experience that lesson or that topic that we just talked about in the classroom.
What about vegetable farming? We were just talking about vegetable farming, obviously. But what about other courses and crops? Yeah,
I'm going to be teaching a course on sustainable orchard and vineyard management. I've taught that either apple or grape production in every other year for the last few years. And really, you're talking about the same story with different characters. And there's been so much interest in both of those crops, especially with wine grape production really taking off, and a lot of new people getting into small-scale orcharding, that we decided to combine the course, but in a way that if a student really wants to focus on one crop or another, there will be opportunities to do that. So the main focus of the class is the project that happens at the end of the year, where or at the end of the semester, where students will be developing a management plan for a farm. A lot of my students in the past have been people who are either working on farms or are planning on setting up farms, so they use this as a core component of their business plan for when they're seeking financing or even for long-term management of the course. We'll also be visiting commercial farms every week so that students can actually see what actually is done in the field, not just at this educational farm, but what happens when people are making money off of doing this.
And it's also interesting, too, because things are constantly changing farm-wise. I know I've done several stories with you on the research that you're doing and being able to even grow more crops on less land.
Yeah, one of the real neat things about doing this at the Hort Farm is that we have fairly modern plantings between the vineyards and the orchards. We have a real diversity of big old-style trees as well as real high-density modern trees, and students can get a sense for all of that and really get a sense for what would make sense for them if they want to get out there and do this as a business.
And also, too, the opportunity to see what other farmers are doing is key, too.
Absolutely. It's neat to see how these different practices are actually being put into practice out in the field.
Mm-hmm. And so obviously this is winter, snowy season, but it's also a busy time too, because a lot of what you do is taking care of the plants, obviously, and during the dormant season, pruning is big.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of interest from both homeowners and established commercial people as they learn how to prune these new systems, as well as homeowners and new growers learning how to do this really critical management practice. So we spent some time last winter doing pruning essentially an abandoned or a home-based orchard, and wanted to kind of show what we could get across to students who wanted to learn this at a time that doesn't really fit in with the class schedule for the summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's take a look then at that clip from last year.
Thanks. I'm standing in front of two different apple trees, one which has been pruned and one which hasn't. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the horticultural reasons for pruning these trees and some of the reasons that you use for making cuts. We'll talk about the tools that you use and how to safely use them to make the cuts and clean the tree up so that it can reach the point that you're looking for in terms of having a pleasing tree form, as well as to increase the fruit production of the tree. So we'll look at this tree first. This is a tree that's already been pruned, and you can see in a lot of areas where there's open what I call windows to the sky. You can see openings between limbs so they aren't overcrowding and shading each other. That's the most important reason to prune your apple trees. The other thing that you want to do is remove dead, diseased, broken limbs, things like that, and then limbs that are crossing over each other so that they're growing into one another and not allowing that tree to have the airflow and the sunlight penetration that you need to grow a good crop of fruit and to have the tree just to be healthy. On your left here, on my left here, we have an unpruned apple tree, and you can see that a lot of branches are just piled on top of each other. You can also see, one thing that's important to point out is on both of these trees, there's relatively little wood growing down low, and there's two reasons for that. One is this is the region where the deer can munch away on any of the buds as they're coming out. But another reason, and more important, is as the tree grows up and becomes more constricted for sunlight, the branches in the top of the tree can get the sunlight and will grow healthy, whereas the branches down lower in the tree get shaded out, receive less sunlight, have less photosynthesis, and therefore those branches tend to be kind of spindly. And in fact, this branch I'm holding right now is actually dead, mainly because it just got choked out for sunlight. So what we typically are gonna do here is create openings in the tree so the sunlight can get down into those lower limbs, as well as lower the tree down a little bit so that we can still maintain it. If we do want to pick the fruit on it, we can get it within a range that's easily accessible, maybe with a short ladder, but we're not trying to get way up into those 30-foot trees that you sometimes see in abandoned orchards. So looking at this tree, I'm going to point out some of the main offenders that we want to address. So we obviously want to remove any dead wood out of the tree, but we don't want to just break it off, and we certainly don't want to leave what I call ugly stubs, which are these stubs that come off from the tree. Every cut needs to be horticulturally correct. That means that you cut off the branch at a point where it can easily heal over from where it grew out of the trunk, but where you're not cutting into the trunk itself, and you're not also leaving a stub where disease can get into. There's a lot of diseases, especially fungal diseases, that can infect little stubs of wood that aren't actively growing, and those can get into the trunk, they can get into the tree itself, and they can really shorten the lifespan of the tree. So this is the sort of stuff that we would remove. This is also a dead branch, another dead branch. Sometimes it's best to just get those out of your way before you make other decisions so that you can see what you're doing elsewhere. So using my pull cut saw, I can make a nice clean cut, and you can see that I've opened up this area, not so much to get sunlight in here because this is dead wood as well, but to allow me to see what I'm doing and access the tree so that I can prune the parts that are healthy. This is also a dead branch. Dead wood can be very difficult to cut, especially with pruners. It becomes fairly hard. It doesn't cut very smoothly. So I do recommend that dead wood, as much as possible, you cut off with a saw, especially after it gets, about the size of your lopper handle. So coming in here, now we've got this branch in here. I've got this branch that's growing into the center of the tree. You want your growth to radiate outward from the center of the tree. And traditionally, with trees that have been trained, you would have a single trunk from which you have multiple branches. But especially with these kind of wild, overgrown trees, you wind up with multiple trunks. And so you need to just figure out a way to control the growth and channel the growth upward in the center and outward at the sides. So this is just a small example of how this growth is channeling back into the center of the tree. So I'll remove it. You'll see as I come through here that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on little twigs and little buds. When this tree gets into a good tree form that we can rely upon in later years, once we've got it into shape, then we can worry about the little stuff. But right now it's the bigger stuff that we're going to concern ourselves with.
So busy time of year, this time of year.
It certainly is.
Now, Susie, will the students in the summer classes learn to market and sell the food that they're growing?
Yeah, so great point. So as Terry mentioned, we have all of these marketing outlets that the students will be part of growing and selling to, and there'll also be a class that will dig into the marketing component. So Kate Finley Woodruff will be offering a sustainable food systems marketing class. So this class will really delve into how to market locally grown produce and really think about all of those opportunities for value added and all the marketing options for produce.
And so what other courses, Terry, are going to be offered?
Well, there will be two other courses offered. One is soil fertility and climate change. That will be taught by PSS professor Joseph Gores. And it's going to cover the concepts of soil fertility and management on a real farm and place them in the context of climate change. We're also going to be offering a course on compost ecology and management. This will be taught by Lynn Fang, also through the Plant and Soil Science Department. And that's going to cover the principles behind the composting process and how to manage compost, both for commercial use and for homeowner use, but especially we're really focusing on the use of this on commercial farms. And she's also going to be focusing a lot about the uses of compost, how it affects soils, how it affects the plants that you're going to be growing. So that's an exciting course.
Yeah, and so, Susie, you're also offering something specifically for high school students.
Right, so this interest is a real broad interest for a lot of audience. So for high school students, we have a summer academy course. This is going to be taught by Mimi Arnstein, who has run a CSA out in Marshfield for 10 years now, and she's an excellent and exciting teacher. And so for high school students, a 2-week intensive, the summer academy allows those students to spend a full day out in the farm, and it's similarly very experiential and hands-on for those guys to learn the basics of sustainable vegetable production.
And we should mention too that these courses are for all people who want to learn, not just students.
What's amazing about this farm is it's a platform for a lot of different audiences. So we have from high school to undergrad to sort of non-traditional professional audiences to adult learners. We have offerings in these topics for all of the audiences at the farm, and that's what we love to do, is sort of offer these classes to everybody.
Mm-hmm. And what's the best way for people to get more information about these classes or perhaps sign up for them?
Yeah, so you can come to our website or give us a call. You can visit us at learn.uvm.edu. And there's also a phone number, 800-639-3210. Call us, check out the website, and we'll give you more information about all of the classes.
And this is, once again, a pretty new program.
Yeah, this really takes courses that we've been teaching to some degree, but not really in a coordinated manner for the last few years, and sort of brings everybody to the table. And the Catamount farm model that we're following really is what's facilitating that, by having this consistent management system where rather than everybody kind of managing their little acre here and there, we now will be able to have a consistent management system that will allow us to teach over the long term. It's been a little bit difficult to have, one person managing plot here and another person managing plot there, and turnover, so that you're not really seeing year to year improvement of the lands or long-term management, and this is really going to facilitate that. And the neat thing about this is it also allows for us to fit some of the research work into that. I do a lot of apple research there, and this will also allow that to fit into the whole program.
Mm-hmm. And as far as what the students are going to be learning, it's everything from the dirt to the end product to selling what they're growing.
Yeah, one thing that we love about farming is that it requires a multitude of skills, and really thinking about it from from the science and the production to the marketing. So we're really trying to think about all of those pieces of a sustainable farm system and educate our students on all of those pieces and how to think like a farmer.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.